Kellan's now going to give us a tour of this apartment, 248 square feet, is that what you said?
Yeah,
so
smallest.
Not massive, yeah, very small apartment. This property is kind of in a gentrifying neighborhood in London, Ontario, the old East Village. I own a lot of properties here myself, and I think one of the challenges a lot of novice or beginner investors have when entering the market into these sort of neighborhoods is determining the level of renovations necessary, the quality of renovations, when is it time to just lipstick it and wait 4 or 5 years for the market to generally improve and rents increase, or when do you take it back to the studs, gut everything, and do it right and know that you're set now for the next 10, 20 years? What are your thoughts, Kellan? The increase here isn't just $200 a month in rent, but if we're applying or evaluating this property at the 1% rule, that $200 a month in increased rent is the equivalent of adding $20,000 in value to this property. We're back with Kellan again in a sixplex. This time we're jumping upstairs into one of the smaller units in this property. 248 square feet, I think is what he said. So this is a tiny apartment, especially when it comes to London, Ontario. But what's really interesting about these tiny apartments is usually the floor for renting them is still quite high. So in my market in London, Ontario here, that bachelor apartment should still always rent for $700 or more a month, regardless of the size. So whether you're looking at a 400 or 500 square foot bachelor apartment or a tiny one like this 248 square foot bachelor apartment, the rents are going to be almost the exact same. So while a lot of landlords may not love the idea of having these tiny units, at the end of the day it doesn't make a big difference on our bottom line. And in today's video, Kellan's going to jump into some of the renovations he undertook on such a small renovation to really make the space feel bigger and just how to maximize the little bit of square footage they have. Thanks again for Kellan for doing this video, and let's dive into it. Alright, so now Kellan's going to dive into the numbers on this tiny renovation and his tiny apartment. So what are we looking at here, Kellan?
So we're standing in a unit that's about 248 square feet, so it's really small, but I think it fits a really nice niche. A lot of people in London now are paying $500 or $600 for just a bedroom, but if you're looking to get a one-bedroom apartment just for yourself, then you're looking at least around $1,000 nowadays. This unit kind of fills that niche because you have a bedroom and then you also have your own kitchen and bathroom and your privacy with your own entrance. So this one ends up being right in the middle between $750 and $800. So I've renovated this unit around $12,000 or so. These are all just estimates, but the kitchen came in around $4 grand. As you can see, we have IKEA cabinets. Once again, these are the Hagby doors, so they're literally if you need to replace these doors in the future, it's $7. For the material. Handles are from Amazon. They're like $1.80 each. Hood range from Amazon. We have that vented straight outside, up and out through the exterior, rather than doing once again, doing those carbon filters and just circulating it. Appliances around $200 delivered. So I tend to do just white appliances. I know a lot of people do the stainless steel stuff, but I mean, in my experience, you don't need stainless steel in order to get top rents. I think it's just this fallacy that people might have. I think maybe in London, if it was Northwest London, that kind of thing, people might expect it. But for Old East and Soho in London, white appliances, as long as they're clean and look good, are perfectly fine, and they're a lot less expensive to replace.
And so since we're in a tight space, these are obviously apartment-sized appliances?
Yeah, so I like to do 30-inch when I can, but in this space there was no reason to. So we have a 24-inch electric stove, 24-inch range hood, and then 24-inch fridge as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, so the cabinets, probably around $1,500 or so installed. So material was under $1,000 or right around there, $1,000 for the including the countertop from IKEA. That might have been on the kitchen sale and that kind of thing. IKEA does 10%, 20% off. Tile material is around $500 and labor was around $500 or so as well. Appliances around $400. I think that it probably was actually under $4 grand to do this kitchen, but that's kind of my estimate, including they have to go and drill through the brick with the exterior, all that stuff. So just to do everything right, because I don't want to have issues with these units in the future. A lot of my renovations, I have it now under the mindset that I'm going to be keeping these properties for 20 plus years. So I don't want to have tile, not sealed properly and I get water behind it or whatever it may be. I want to do these things right from the beginning.
Makes sense.
So the bathroom was probably around $4,000 as well. And I mean, this is including demo costs and that kind of thing. So the tub, the tile, vanity, toilet, none of that's very expensive. Once again, for tile, I like to go hourly, or if there's people who do it by the job with a good price, then do it like that as well. But I tend to do 3x6 subway tile in the kitchens with 1/8-inch spacers, and then in the bathrooms I do 4x16 subway tile. It's a lot easier for them to cover a lot of square footage with larger tiles versus a bunch of little tiny ones. And once again, vinyl plank throughout, just because it's waterproof. You can do it in the kitchens, bathrooms, and then I may as well just get the same flooring guy to continue it through the rest of the unit. And then the rest, flooring, because it's such a small square footage, $900 or so that was vinyl plank installed throughout material and labor. Paint was done for probably actually around $600 or so. I wrote 500, but the labor was like $400, and the material, and that's including doors and trim and all that stuff. And then the mud and tape, that was $950, because when I do a tour, I'll explain we had to do some moving a little bit of the walls, that kind of thing. And the old rents on this unit, we went from $600 plus headaches to $800. So the previous tenant was really challenging in this unit. This was one bringing police presence around, like illegally subletting the unit, all sorts of things. Mm-hmm. And they had like a London-based like homelessness people kind of like protecting the tenant, even though this really isn't ideally the type of tenant they're really trying to protect. I totally understand when people like need to get into units and that kind of thing, and I'm all for it, but this was like a tenant who was destroying the place, and they were like backing them up, and it was a real challenge. Took me about 2 years to get this tenant out, so it wasn't my main focus, but now I'm gonna get a good tenant in here, headaches will be gone, and the rents will be between $750 and $800, and that's all inclusive.
Awesome, I love it. So this property is kind of in a gentrifying neighborhood in London, Ontario, the Old East Village. I own a lot of properties here myself, and I think one of the challenges a lot of novice or beginner investors have when entering the market into these sort of neighborhoods is determining the level of renovations necessary, the quality of renovations. You know, when is it time to just lipstick it and wait 4 or 5 years for the market to generally improve and rents increase, or when do you like take it back to the studs, gut everything, and do it right and know that you're set now for the next 10, 20 years. What are your thoughts, Kellan?
I think if the layout is already half decent and you're in a neighborhood that's not fully gentrified, at that point, lipstick paint, that kind of thing. I've done enough of that. Some of those units now I'm going back to renovate them because the neighborhood's gotten a lot better. So Old East Village a couple of years ago, maybe it wouldn't have been worth putting this kind of money in. Not that it's that much money, but like it may have just been paint it and move on, just re-rent it, right? But at some point, once again, if you're trying to keep the property and that kind of thing, I mean, if you're planning on keeping the property for 20 years, there'd be an argument for doing it right from the very beginning. But definitely based on what the neighborhood's doing, it's worth considering.
Yeah, and I think another big consideration is this headache factor here, right? So you probably could have literally thrown paint on this and maybe rented it out for like $750, maybe even $800 still. But the quality of tenant that would say yes to this unit probably isn't the same as would say yes to it looking in this condition.
Exactly. Yeah, quality tenant is huge. Like when you're scaling up your portfolio and you have like I have 32 units now in London. If I have 32 tenants that are all not ideal, I'm gonna have a real headache on my hands. But at this point, pretty much all of my tenants are really great, so headaches are really low. People are reasonable. When there's a maintenance issue, I get it fixed, so they're happy. And building a low headache portfolio overall is really worth considering. Most of the houses I've been buying are like really run down, sometimes crack houses, that kind of thing. And so I've been there on the side of the headaches.
Well, like I think it is really important to keep in mind that it's not just the numbers, right?
Yeah.
Because we could probably get close to the same rent without doing the renovations on this unit, but those headaches are what's going to slow you down from acquiring the next 32 units, right?
Yeah, I think it's a slew of benefits. When you've got a unit and do it right, it's going to look better, you're going to get better quality tenants, and you're going to be happier keeping that property long term. It'll also show during an appraisal. I mean, almost I would say almost always it's worth doing it really nicely, but if it's a property that you're not planning on keeping forever, or it's a property that's in a neighborhood that's still pretty run down, in those scenarios, it might just be worth lipstick and paint. It also really, it's worth considering the state of your life at that time. So if I have 6 units on the go at this time, and I've got 1 unit that's turning over, well, maybe now is not the time, right? I've already got, multiple units on the go, so that one I'm just gonna paint it and rent it out. Next turnover, maybe I'll take it on. So just basing it on which contractors you have available, if you want to try and keep people busy, all that kind of thing is a factor as well.
And taking a step back and talking about the renovations on this project again, how hands-on are you with overseeing people? Right. Are you here every day? Are you getting calls, texts, photos every day? Right. Or are you completely passive?
So I'm not completely passive in terms of being the GC, so I am actually acting as a GC on this, so I'm hiring the guy to install the kitchen, and I'm sourcing materials, that kind of thing. So early on in my portfolio, I was definitely doing a lot of the stuff myself. So I was in there sweeping and doing all the manual labor and that kind of thing. And early on, for your first couple or few properties, it's totally worth doing. At some point, you need to start working on your business instead of in your business. So at this point, everything I do is hired out, except for acting as a GC myself. When you're working a full-time job, it can be really difficult to come in and check on the property every day, especially towards the end of the day. You come in and people said, hey, I've been working on this for 10 hours today, and you come in and you're like, what was done? I don't understand. So it's really important to stay on top of your projects. I definitely didn't do enough of that early on. That was one of my big challenges. So if you can, try and be there on site every day. And if you can't, maybe pay someone to go do that for you. Yeah, just be there as often as you can. You're going to notice issues. I mean, just the other day I was in here and we were renovating and the plumbing was done, but there was a pipe leaking, so it was dripping into the unit. And if I wasn't here to notice that, you'd end up with water issues everywhere. So it's really worth checking on your projects as often as you can.
One last thing that I really want to hit home for the audience is the increase here isn't just $200 a month in rent, but if we're applying or evaluating this property at the 1% rule, we can essentially take the difference in rent, times it by 100, and that's the net equity that Kellan's built here as well, right? That's the net increase in value he's created. So that $200 a month in increased rent is the equivalent of adding $20,000 in value to this property based upon kind of the market fundamentals here in London.
Yeah. And I mean, if it only cost 12 grand, then you made 8 grand there. And if it did cost you 20 grand to add 20 grand in equity, well, at least now you have a house with some private ownership. You're going to have better tenants. It's going to cash flow well. So it's almost always worth it.
Kellan's now going to give us a tour of this apartment, 248 square feet, is that what you said?
Yeah,
so
smallest.
Not massive, yeah, very small apartment. So let's chat about some of the issues you might come across trying to rent out an apartment this size.
Yeah.
Because of the price point, it's going to be pretty low overall compared to where a lot of other rent prices are in this market.
Yeah.
So how are you going to filter or sort through the barrage of people you're going to get applying that maybe don't actually realize what 248 square feet look like?
Yeah, so actually one of the biggest tips would be providing a video walkthrough. So most people, you don't want to come here and then walk in and be like, this is too small, smaller than I expected. Well, video walkthroughs help with that. It really gives them a feel for the space. All I do is take a quick video on my phone, post it on YouTube with a private link, and include that link on the ad. And when I reply, I'm posting my ads on Kijiji and Facebook Marketplace, and all of the subgroups on Facebook Marketplace as well. So when I post that and I reply to the ads, I say, did you watch the video walkthrough? And at least half of them haven't. So once they've seen the video walkthrough, a lot of them are like, oh, it's too small. And I'd rather handle that remotely, right? So I do all of that. And then once I'm ready, I line up all the showings in 15-minute intervals. So I can do however many, 8 showings in 2 hours or whatever that is, right? Mm-hmm. And so I can do that really quickly. It allows me to have 15 minutes to actually talk to the people, get a feel for them once they're here. But there is a lot of pre-vetting. I used to just post it, and then whoever was interested would say, yeah, come on out and do a showing. But now I have some really basic questions. I just essentially ask, what are you currently doing for work, and who would the unit be for? And if you have any questions, pass them along. And generally, based on where they work, who the unit's for, and what their questions are, you can get a pretty good feel for the type of person. If they're well-spoken or nice or friendly, and just what they're doing for work, and and then what their questions are as well. If they have a huge list of questions that are like kind of unreasonable, then you're just like, okay, like this is a high maintenance type person. You can't really be judgmental on these things. Like, you need to make decisions based on income and that kind of thing, based on like our landlord tenant board rules. But realistically, if someone's giving you weird vibes, like, you're not going to want to rent to them. So you just generally don't give your actual reason. You just say, look,
went with a different applicant.
I went with a different applicant. And like, luckily in London at least, we have a lot of applicants. When you post an ad, you're getting 100+ replies. So
yeah, because here in London right now, we're rocking like a 2% vacancy rate. So
yeah,
there's a lot of demand for these apartments.
Huge demand, and we're doing our best to increase the supply, but the city makes that a bit of a challenge. So we're just doing the best we can to provide as many units as we can.
Awesome.
So
I'm guessing that this is kind of where the tenant is likely to actually place their bed, is over here.
Yeah.
Maybe throw a chair over there.
Yeah, and the way I picture it is essentially you're renting a bedroom, but it's a bachelor unit. So a lot of times when you rent one bedroom in a house, you just get the bedroom and then you share the kitchen and bathroom. Here you get your own kitchen and bathroom, and this is your bedroom with your own dedicated entrance. It's a really small unit, but people just, a lot of times it's going to be divorced people that just, some guy just wants to get into a unit and just get away from the house, right? So they want to have a unit, or it's someone that just never had an apartment before, they want to have their first place. So this is going to be your living room and your bedroom. So yeah, maybe they put their bed over there, maybe they put it over there. But in general, this is basically the living space. You still have a closet, pretty basic, lots of natural light coming through. We actually had an opening right here. So the wall used to be ending here. We extended it so that we had room to put a fridge on this side. And then we had a wall here that we busted out, and we raised this up as high as we could so the natural light can pour in. But otherwise, we did a lot of skim coating on these walls. Some of them partially were replaced. Update any of the electrical, do like the nice decor switches. We still have a lot to do. Like, we still have 10% of the work left to do, so we got to put some covers on that. We got to fix that because someone put baseboard trim above the door. So some of the calls that contractors make mid-renovation are just absurd. So you have to budget for things like that as well. So we're gonna get things like that fixed up.
And so Kellan, is this the color palette of like all your units? Like, are you using the same color, the same flooring everywhere, or does it depend on the property?
Yeah, so I do the same paint color everywhere. I just use universal gray from Dulux. I have a discount with them, like 50% off. So I buy all my paint from them. For any of the renovations I'm doing, I tend to pay people labor only, which is also, Matt Pichet's talked about that in some of his videos as well. I think it's the way to go. Provide the materials and pay people for the labor. So I paid a painter here, I provided the universal gray paint, white on the ceilings, paint the baseboards and all the trim and everything with high gloss white. The flooring, I'd love to be able to use the same stuff everywhere, but it changes every year, and unfortunately the big box stores are the only ones that let you return extra boxes. So that's a challenge, because I like to just buy a bunch of flooring and not have to worry about how accurate I've been, and when I'm done, just go back to the store and return the extras. But the local stores don't let you return extras. There's not really a good system I've found, unless you have maybe a garage where you can just buy a full pallet of them and store them, and that way you can use that flooring everywhere. Because the challenge with flooring when you have all these units is you have 1 or 2 extra leftover boxes at the end. You want to keep them so you can always replace pieces if necessary. But now you're storing all those, so maybe you have 30 different sets of 2 boxes stored somewhere, which is, I haven't really found a great solution for that. If people do have a solution, I would love to hear it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, let's check out the kitchen and bathroom then.
So the kitchen's actually really functional. Lots of big windows. I mean, everything still needs to be cleaned as well. So get a professional cleaner in, of course, before any tenant moves in. But once again, IKEA kitchen. Use the Hagerty doors. Amazon for the handles. They're like $1.80 each. I do a single sink here. I like to do double sinks whenever I can. I didn't have room to fit a dishwasher in this unit, but it's clean. We did the extra tall cabinets. Anytime you have space to fit a full height cabinet, just do it, because why have that wasted space above? Yeah, try and do the slow close drawers everywhere. Yeah, just nice cabinets. Got a 24-inch stove and 24-inch range hood. The range hood actually vents outside. A lot of times people just circulate them, but I like them vented properly, especially in a multifamily building where you're going to have smells sharing throughout the house. Otherwise, again, vinyl plank. Behind you, we're going to have a 24-inch fridge. We don't have room to do a 30-inch fridge in this apartment. And then we did subway tile everywhere, 3x6, which I always do. And I'll show you the bathroom. It doesn't look very nice right now, it still needs to get shined up, but 4x16 subway tile in the bathroom, I'll just walk in. So, tiny bathroom, but totally functional, 4x16 subway tile. I tend to do sliding glass shower doors. In this unit, I might end up just doing a shower curtain. But mowing fixtures everywhere, I don't even mow now. I have just a small 20-inch vanity, new toilet, and light fixture. I'm going to do medicine cabinet here for storage, and vinyl plank. We tend to do PVC trim along the bottom of the shower base so that it doesn't rot out. And that's about it in here. There's no door yet. And then we had to vent the bathroom fan. So once again, we had to drill a 4-inch hole on the exterior of the property, run the venting, and then build a bulkhead. So everything here is done right. I can feel confident that over the years, moisture is getting carried out, smells are getting carried out. Tile is done right. It's all waterproof and done properly. So I don't have to worry over the years about the property deteriorating.
Thanks again to Kellan for taking the time to break down the numbers on this sixplex and kind of explain to us how he's going about renovating this sixplex. Really enjoy this story. Again, this was a property I overlooked a few years ago that Kellan snapped up. I love seeing young real estate investors out there hustling and taking advantage of deals when they find them. And if you guys didn't know, Kellan started investing back in 2016. It's now 2019 when we shot these videos. He no longer has a day job. He's now just a full-time real estate investor. In fact, spent like 3 months traveling around North America because of the freedom real estate's got him. I love it. It's just a fantastic example of real people doing real shit and getting real results. If you guys enjoyed this video, smash that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new to my channel, and until next time, remember, making money is a team sport. There's more than enough money in this world for us to all make it, but if you're not saving it, I mean, like, what's the point? Thanks, guys.